The U.S. women's national team is a current-day powerhouse in the world of soccer. 3 World Cup titles, 4 Olympic gold medals, and don't forget about the 6 Gold Cup trophies to add to that shelf. This team has become the new inspiration of America. They have shifted the entire country into a new day, a new era, and a new world that is surrounded by soccer, and the connection that it brings to the rest of the world is unmatched. Compare this to any other sport in our nation, and your assumption would be that the players generating this kind of excitement would be making a lot of money. Major sports such as football, basketball, and baseball have captured our imaginations and our pocketbooks. And yet, in the category of women's soccer, there is an entirely different story. The talented and successful women of the U.S. women's national team found that story unacceptable. Within the past decade, the women's team has done a lot better in terms of gameplay, revenue, and popularity than most might think. The men in soccer have historically been honored for being the team in America. While the men have had some pretty impressive moments of glory in the past, it's really the women's team that has recently outshined everyone else. Let's dive into the latest numbers. After their victorious World Cup campaign back in 2015, the women's national team reeled in a total revenue of $23 million. This was an astounding number, given that the U.S. Soccer Federation only projected the team to bring in about $7 million from things like advertisement and viewership. This standout event urged a major push in popularity for women's soccer. Over the course of the next year, just from its exhibition matches and tournament gameplay, the women turned a profit of $6.6 million. And the men? Their profit was a little under $2 million. Looking ahead from that point, U.S. Soccer's budget predicted that the trend will continue. As they expected another Olympic gold medal and another victory tour, the Federation forecasted a profit of more than $5 million for the women's team on $17.5 million in revenue. This jump was significant, and everyone watching from around the country and around the world started to gain some serious respect for these elite female footballers. In almost every sport that we know today in America, dominance is key. Championships, rings, and trophies. And what is the one thing that connects all of those aspects of sports together? Money. American sports are crucial to the American economy, and athletic salaries shine a light on the fame and glory of professional athletics. This key point leads us to the issue of the unfortunate exception of women's soccer in the payment category. For decades and decades, it has been the men that have received more money than the women. Through the mid to late 1900s, this was understandable, given that the market for women's soccer was so low and out of the picture at the time. However, it's clear that the women have taken multiple steps upward since 1991, when they won their first World Cup championship in front of 63,000 fans. Dominant gameplay and record attendances kept piling up for the women's side year after year. Ever since this burst of popularity in American soccer and the increasing revenue for women's soccer, everyone has been asking the same question. Why aren't the women making as much money as the men? The differentiation between gameplay salaries on the men and women's sides is extremely clear. Men receive almost $100,000 more than the women do if both teams win 10 games in their respective national leagues. The men also receive bonuses just for showing up to a game or to an international match. The women make close to nothing compared to this, even when they actually play. These numbers and structured payment methods were unacceptable in the eyes of the women's national team, as well as their representatives. What the players want, they say, is equal pay for equal work.
I've been on this team now for a decade and a half, and I've been through numerous CBA negotiations, and honestly, not much has changed. We continue to be told we should be grateful. Just to have the opportunity to play professional soccer and to get paid for doing it. And in this day and age, you know, it's about equality, it's about equal rights, it's about equal pay, and we're pushing for that. And we believe now is the time is right, because we believe it's a responsibility for women's sports and specifically for women's soccer to really do whatever it takes to push for equal pay and equal rights.
In March of 2016, various players representing the women's soccer team, such as Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, Becky Sauerbrunn, and Hope Solo, along with their attorney Jeffrey Kessler, filed a complaint for wage discrimination towards the U.S. Soccer Federation. This complaint was filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. This group, including many of the team's players, accused U.S. Soccer of paying them and their teammates about a quarter of what their counterparts on the men's national team receive. A big argument that was used in the case was that compensation and bonus structure was tilted heavily in favor of the men. It was also shown that the women's team's on-field success had produced millions of dollars in revenue for U.S. Soccer in 2015, and was projected to do the same in 2016, which it did. But yet, they weren't making the amount of money that they deserved. The women who stood up for their payment inequality gained much publicity nationwide.
Just to be clear, I think for people who are out there who are wondering, what are the demands? Is it to make wages exactly equal to the men, or is it to close the percentage gap?
I think that at the end of the day, it's just about equality in everything. You know, it might not be, we have completely different structures when it comes to the national teams, but yeah, we're just looking to get what we deserve.
Throughout the next year, the women and their team's attorneys continued to fight for equal pay. After working in negotiations with the Federation and making their case for wage discrimination and inequality, the door finally opened. In April of 2017, the team struck a deal with the Federation that resolved the long-running pay dispute. The new deal was ratified by players and the U.S. Soccer Board, allowing the new conditions to run through 2021, which purposely includes the next Women's World Cup in 2019. While the exact payment amounts were not immediately released, it was clarified that there would be a large increase in player compensation, as well as bonus compensation for tournaments and victories. Not only was this new agreement ratified for player salaries, but it also helped the lifestyle aspect of women's soccer. For example, there were enhanced lifestyle benefits for certain players with children due to the large travel periods. There was also greater financial support added for players who are pregnant and players who are adopting a child. Women are now getting paid a lot more money out of respect for their hard work and continuous success on the U.S. national team. Megan Klingenberg, the U.S. Women's National Team fullback and representative, stated that she is proud of the tireless work that the players and the bargaining team put in to promote the game and to ensure a bright future for American players. She also looked forward in promoting an updated players' union that she expects to strengthen over the next few years. While the women of the team felt proud and uplifted by the work they did to fight for equality in a growing American sport, there was still work to be done to ensure that this positive trend can continue in women's soccer, as well as creating a positive impact on the future of this popular sport in America. What has happened over the past few years for women's soccer has truly been historic. The team has made it known that their success both on and off the field will generate a positive future for women's soccer around the world.
The world loves soccer, and the American women are the best women's soccer team in the history of the sport. I think that matters in a way that a lot of people like tennis. It's not the most popular sport in the world, right? A lot of people like basketball. It's still not even close to where soccer is worldwide, right? You know, you go to the middle of, you know, a small Brazilian town and you talk about, you know, football and they get it. You go to, you know, a place in South Africa and talk about football and they get it. You go to, you know, downtown London and talk about football and they get it. There is no explanation because It's sort of part of the culture. So I think because you're already starting at a sport that people get and is popular and the women are so good at, if the US women were 9th in the world and had been, you know, up to 7 and down to 14 and, you know, all over the map, they might not have the clout. But you're talking about the team that only women's team with 3 stars. You're talking about a team that has some of the most marketable, you know, athletes in the world on the women's side in it. Megan Rapinoe, everybody knows who Alex Morgan is. Everybody who knows sports at least has heard the name Alex Morgan, and if you show them a picture, they've seen her before, if they don't know her by name, right? Everybody knows Alex Morgan. And I think that matters. I think you have a lot of strong independent voices, and, you know, they're the best in history at doing it.
This wage dispute was not just about the female players earning more money. The pride, glory, and success of the female athletes has grown to captivate the eyes of fans around the globe, and it doesn't just stop at the national team. The National Women's Soccer League, the professional female soccer league in America, followed up on this historic movement by supporting the national team athletes as they improved the player compensation for players who play both in the league and on the national team, as well as the players who support their families and professional work life. A spark has flared in the history books of women's athletics in the US, and the inspirational outlook on the wage gap and various issues in our country has come to the attention of people everywhere. The national team representatives have stated that they will always support the female athletes and will always stand up for what they believe in. Ever since this powerful movement in women's soccer and women's sports as a whole, it has brought light to the issue of wage inequality, and the next generation of fans and athletes will always look up to this dream team.
I don't necessarily feel pressure. I don't think the team feels pressure. I think it's more so we've always, as a team, fought for what is right, and I think we've always been an example and tried to push the sport forward, whatever it may be. So I think that this is just another step in that direction.